This video provides a quick introduction to using Microsoft 3D Builder to do basic computer-aided design operations. Microsoft 3D Builder is a free program that comes with Windows 11, or it can be installed from the Microsoft Store. To run the program, click on the Start icon in the taskbar to bring up the Start Programs menu. Select All, and 3D Builder should be the first program in the list. Click on the program name to start the program. 3D Builder starts with a splash screen. Click New Scene to start. Now 3D Builder is ready for work. The program window has three main parts. First, along the top of the window is the menu ribbon, in which all the categories of operations are presented. Click on a category and another ribbon is presented below with the operations of that category. Second, the bar on the right side of the window has tools to control how objects are selected for work. More on that in a minute. And third, the largest area of the window presents the 3D scene in which we'll add and manipulate objects to make parts. Before we start work with objects, we'll go over how to navigate the scene. First thing to know is that positions in the scene are described as coordinates, a lot like we consider longitude, latitude, and altitude in the real world. In the 3D Builder scene are three axes, X, Y, and Z, corresponding to how you'd think longitude, latitude, and altitude. The X-axis runs from the center of the scene to the right, the Y-axis runs from the center to the horizon, and Z runs vertically. The row and column numbers in the 3D Builder scene represent the X and Y axes respectively. The Z-axis doesn't have numbers depicted. 3D Builder defaults to using millimeters for its unit of measure, which works just fine for our particular use. So any object we put in the scene will have a position described as three numbers, X, Y, and Z, in millimeters. Right now, we're looking into the scene along the Y-axis. We'll need to change that viewpoint to do various things as we build parts, and that is done with three tools: Rotate, Pan, and Zoom. Rotate is done by placing the mouse cursor in some unoccupied part of the scene, clicking and holding the left mouse button, and dragging the cursor. Note that we can rotate both vertically and horizontally, and the rotation stops when we release the mouse button. All that rotation is done around a single point in the scene, starting at the intersection of the three axes. Panning changes the point around which we rotate. Panning is accomplished by placing the mouse cursor in an unoccupied part of the scene, clicking and holding the right mouse button, and dragging the cursor. Like rotating, we can pan both vertically and horizontally, and the panning stops when we release the mouse button. Finally, we can zoom into and out of the scene by rotating the mouse wheel. You don't need a mouse button press to do this, nor does the mouse cursor need to be in an unoccupied part of the scene. So that's basically how you navigate around the scene in 3D Builder. Now let's look at how objects are created and manipulated. We'll do that by using one of the basic objects 3D Builder provides, the cube. Add a cube to the scene by selecting Insert in the ribbon bar, then Cube in the corresponding toolbar. When we do this, 3D Builder adds a cube to the scene, positioned such that its bottom sits on the intersection of the X and Y axes. Note the added object has a blue line around its outside edges. That indicates the object is the selected object. The selected object is the one to which the various modification tools inflict themselves. Usually only one object is selected at a time, but that behavior can be changed with the tools in the selection bar to the right. Note that when we added the cube, a bar appeared at the bottom of the scene. This is the modification toolbar, which we use to inflict the modifications to the selected object. There are three fundamental modifications, each selected with one of the three leftmost icons in the toolbar. They are Move, Rotate, and Scale. When we select any of them, the rest of the toolbar changes with items to accommodate the tool, and modification aids that are relevant to the tool are added around the selected object. Let's look at each one individually. The first tool, Move, is the leftmost icon in the bar. When we added the first object in the scene, Move was selected by default, and the rest of the toolbar was populated with X, Y, and Z boxes to show how far the move in each direction goes. The unit of measure is also displayed, and around the object, arrows are placed to use in doing moves as the mouse drags along the respective axes. Note that one arrow is colored green, and the X item in the toolbar has a green shade, and this indicates that when we drag this arrow, the object is moved along the X direction. Rotate the scene a bit, and note how 3DBuilder tries to keep all three arrows visible for you to use. Now move the mouse cursor to the X arrow, click and hold the left button and drag the arrow either left or right. And the object follows suit, moving along with the arrow. You can do this along any of the three axes, one at a time. This is actually handy behavior, as a lot of moving needs to be done along one direction only, and the other two are fixed. If you just want to move a specific amount, you can click on X, Y, or Z item in the toolbar, and 3DBuilder will open an edit box above the toolbar. Type in the number you want and click Accept. The other two modification operators follow the same alternatives tailored to their specifics. A handy behavior of the Move tool is Snap. As you move an object around, 3DBuilder will snap the location to various other objects or the X, Y, or Z axes, which makes it handy for precisely placing objects next to each other. The next tool over is Rotate. Select it and the toolbar changes to the rotate parameters, named roll, pitch, and yaw. This convention is from the airplane world, but it suffices to recognize that roll corresponds to rotate around the x-axis, pitch corresponds to rotate around the y-axis, and yaw corresponds to rotate around the z-axis. Note that the center of rotation is the center of the object wherever it is, not the actual intersection of the x, y, and z scene axes. The object decorations are changed to arrows on circles, and dragging a particular arrow rotates the object around the circle. And you can also enter rotations the same way as you did for moves by clicking in the appropriate roll, pitch, or yaw box, and an edit box is presented. Rotation quantities are in degrees, 0 through 360. The third tool is Scale, the only tool of the three to actually change the object's dimensions. The toolbar parameters go back to X, Y, and Z values, but now the arrow tools around the object are accompanied by a white rectangle around the object, which allows you to change the object dimensions in two directions at once. For our purposes, the arrow tools are the most useful. They allow one to grow an object in a specific direction, keeping the object's original placement. So that's how a single object is manipulated. More objects can be added to the scene, manipulated with Move, Rotate, or Scale tools. In the Object menu category, you can duplicate the selected object, cut, copy, and paste. Edit has the fundamental shaping tools, particularly Extrude and Subtract, which are very handy for shaping more complex parts. Finally, when you have all the objects placed and modified to suit, you can save the whole thing using the hamburger menu item, which is the three lines that are on the left-hand side of the menu bar, and select Save or Save As, or the diskette icon on the right-hand side of the menu ribbon. That's it for a quick overview. 3DBuilder isn't a powerful tool in the way of Fusion 360 or SolidWorks, but it provides a clean and intuitive way to integrate parts for 3D printing.